He's going to take a session on Microsoft Purview internal fraud prevention and data protection. Over to you, Abhijeet.
Thanks, Vijay. All right. So before we begin, there are a lot of exciting prizes which are planned. So please make sure that you respond to the quiz and make sure that you're winning. Or there is also a 70% discount on the Microsoft Press books, ebooks, and video courses. So please make sure that you are enrolling and answering the quiz. We are also supporting a cause here. So this is to empower girls with education. This we are supporting it for Don Bosco Navjeevan Society. So if you feel that any contribution you make that will really help the girls from Don Bosco Navjeevan Society to create an impact. So a QR code is displayed on your screen. So please make sure if you happen to feel for to empower the girls with education, please go ahead and donate it. So about my session today. Today, I'm going to talk about the Microsoft Purview internal fraud prevention and data protection. So that's the topic for the day. Before I begin, I'll give my introduction. I'm Abhijeet Jadhav. I'm the Director for Cloud Solutions working for Turn Digital. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 development. I have 18 plus years of experience. Moreover, as my role as a director for cloud solution, I oversee the implementation of cloud solutions and make sure that ensure that the resources and the services which are configured for the customers are working efficiently. I'm also a PMP certified professional uh, and also Azure certified architect. So that's about me. Uh, So this is the agenda which I would like to cover today. Um, I'll talk about or give some background around the fraud protection and data protection. Then we'll see what is insider risk management. What is that? How can we do the insider risk management and why we should be doing it? Then I'll show you the insider risk management demo. I'll also briefly touch upon the data protection of how or what things are available using Microsoft Purview, how there are options for you to protect your data and make sure that uh, the insider fraud protection and the data is protected. Okay, so let's get started. I'll talk about let me give you before I start here. Let's start with an example here. So this is an example of an insider attack. Joey is the employee. He's an insider. He has got fired, and Ross is the administrator, and he has forgotten to void Joey's login credential. So as Joey is fired from the company, Joey goes home, logins into the work machine, and takes malicious actions. He introduces bugs in the system. He deletes files. He backs up the important data of the company on his personal devices. So alternatively, when Ross comes to know about this, what did is Ross might he what he does is he voids the credentials what Joey has. But Joey also has the service account or the group account information, and he is still able to make a considerable dent to the security and cause loss to the organization. So this is not only one way. Like this is a classic case of an insider attack. But here we know that Joey is has resigned or is fired from the company, and we know that there is a malicious attack which we are able to figure it out. Uh, at least we are able to understand that there is a malicious attack and it has been done. But there are, considering the current situation where hybrid work is at, uh, you know, uh, is the forefront way of working. So there are not very good indicators of an insider attack or insider attack being happening on the company, the IP theft, the data corruption, and things like that. And we are used to thinking about data exposure. Uh, like we most of the organizations, what we have a mindset saying that the company should have a secure environment, a security in the sense of firewall protection, and a number of things that we are doing externally, so that the external malicious attackers can cannot reach to the data inside. Okay, so there are external threats from cyber attacks, and but there are also cases like this where Joey is a rogue admin who went ahead and introduced bugs or deleted files. But we are not looking at the normal users. We are not looking at the risk introduced by our everyday employees. So there are risks which are introduced not by the admins, not by the rogue admins, or not by the external sources, but by the internal, regular, everyday employees. So how employees and contractors interact with the data has changed significantly. So there was a time when everyone was in under a single roof, coming together, and then there were ways that we were protecting the data. But here, uh, now we don't have an all in-person workplace. It is no longer the norm. As per the statistics, third of our workforce, like 33% of the workforce all over the companies operate in an hybrid mode, with some like in full time working from remote. This hybrid approach can bring challenges to manage the insider risk. The communication and collaboration no longer sits within the traditional confines of office buildings. So it is resulting in potential loss and less relevant on-premise security controls. So the controls, that security controls that we were put forth, whether it's in the control that we're putting with respect to Wi-Fi, with the firewall inside the company, those are not really making uh, the complete protection of the organization. So when users are operating outside the organization's office and network, combined with increased in cloud adoption, this has been the trend of the entire technical world, that the cloud adoption is at forefront, and this has resulted in an increased possibility of accidental or intentional misuse of data, and it requires an effective way to approach this insider risks. So, and it goes without saying that the data exposure risk will increase more when we have departing employees, or you have more employees joining in who are not aware of the security and compliance requirements of the data they are handling, or the communication they are doing within the organization with the internal employees or with the contractors or the vendors with whom they are interacting. So these are the different threat examples, and this is not the finite list. As I said, if you see here, it says on and on and on. So this is a the highlight of some of the threat examples. The threat examples can be data corruption, deletion, modification. This can be done by the employees intentionally, or it can be done unintentionally or accidentally. Leaking the sensitive data, the IP data of the company, that is a threat. The denial of service attacks which are done, or blackmailing, like getting the data, pulling the data, or making it accessible to all the employees, is another way of insider risk, uh, which can happen. The theft of corporate data, I talked about that there are multiple ways ways where the important IP data or the data which is very sensitive to the specific organization or the field in which the organization is operating. Example, the healthcare industry, they have patented data for their drugs. So these kind of data, theft of that corporate data is an example of an threat, of an insider risk threat. And the based on the industry, based on the organization, based on the structure, the organization has the hierarchy. This list goes on and on and on. So, uh, so for that, I mean, considering all these scenarios and the risks that we are seeing, Microsoft Purview or Microsoft has introduced uh, a feature into the Microsoft Purview, which is called the Microsoft Purview for Insider Threat Risk Management. So the insider risk management, it helps in uh, it leverages the Microsoft Graph to obtain the real-time native signals across Office, Windows, other applications about the file activity, the abnormal user behaviors, the third-party signals like from an HR system. You can connect to the data from an HR system, and using the data connectors, you can get that data, push that data into the insider risk management, and track the activities of those users. It is a robust set of configurable. We can have robust set of configurable policies, which are tailored specifically for digital IP theft, confidentiality breach, uh, also the offensive communication, which use and it uses machine learning and intelligence to correlate the signals to identify the hidden patterns and risks that traditional or manual methods might miss it. There are a number of insider risk tracking tools which were on-prem installed or were available earlier, so which might need installation on your devices, but it is not needed anymore. Without having any agent running on your desktop or your machine, these threat signals can be tracked, made sense out of it, pushed to the machine learning, and you can make sense out of it, connecting the dots. So it is a comprehensive 360-degree view, which provides a curated and easy to understand visual summary of individual risk within your organization. So it is with specific user, specific files, all that can be tracked. So this view, it includes the historical timeline of all activities and trends associated uh, of each identified threat. So you can go inside, you can see that uh, who has caused it, at what time it has caused, which file, what communication. So that can be tracked at an individual file level. And this insider risk management, Microsoft Purview's insider risk management, it helps you to uh, uh, allow you to define the types of risks, to identify within your or detect within your organization. So those are not set in stone, based on your organization's requirement. Those can be either the policy indicators, and the threat levels can be increased or decreased, and can be tracked. And then once you have the data, then you can create a case out of it. Then you can escalate the case, you can share it with your legal team, and then if needed, it can be shared with the law enforcement so that appropriate actions can be taken. And the risk analysts who are there in your organization, they can quickly take an appropriate steps to make sure that the organization is compliant with the standards, whatever are implemented. So it helps you to identify and act on inadvertent user activities. So there are two parts to it. So the insider risk management, there are two parts. One is the insider risk management, where you create a policy about the files copied, the data deleted, and leakage of the sensitive information. But there is also a second part of it where it is communication compliance. That when you look around in your organization, or you must have heard or experienced it yourself. There are employees who are burnt out, and they go and there might be an underlying reason for that, why people leave the organization. It can be the direct correlation between the communications which happen between the team, between the leadership, between the immediate uh, reporting or reporting managers that happen, that it leads to an toxic, unhealthy workplace, which can lead to the workplace harassment. So those communications can also be tracked using the tools what Microsoft Purview offers. And these the workplace harassment, or the way the communications happens between the employees, it leads to potential data theft, or risky communications happen between uh, between the employees. And these are the risk scenarios that can be captured, tracked, and made sense of it, out of it, and then finally addressed uh, using the tools that are available. So having all said that, like insider risk management. So I talked about the insider risk, but I'll talk about what is it, how you can do the insider risk management, and why it is required actually to do. I talked about few things, but I'll also explain you in detail of why it is actually required to do an insider risk management. So, taking a step back, so what is insider risk? I talked briefly about one of the employees. The insiders are commonly defined as, it can be your current employee, it can be your former members of the workforce who has the authorized access. So they are internally, they are within your team, they are within your organization, who has the authorized access, who has the knowledge of the organization's assets. It can be facilities, it can be information, it can be access about, or the knowledge about the people who are working around. So those all people are categorized as an insider risks. So these insider risks, we have all these risks available. So before we do an insider risk management, we need to ask ourselves the key questions, that if these are the risks what we have. So uh, the one of the most common blockers for organization is a starting point, or a starting a program in understanding a potential insider risks that exist, and how it can be prioritized. So that there is an insider risk for an organization, but to start, like what policies to implement, who should be responsible for it, what action should organization take. So for example, for a technology organization, they often wish to have uh, the to have to protect their intellectual property. Or if you have a healthcare organization, you often seek to protect your patient data. Financial, if you are a financial organization, you look to protect against your insider trading, because these can cause you um, not millions, I mean, it can cause you a lot of financial damage if these risks are not taken care. So the key question what you should ask is, insider risk areas warrant the most attention in your organization? If it is a tech organization, it can be your property of your intellectual property. If it is a healthcare organization, it can be your protect your financial data. It can be your patient data. If it is in financial organize, if it is a healthcare organization, it is patient data and your protect your patient data. Whereas if it is a financial organization, it can be the insider trading, or the details, or the information which is shared within the partner organizations. Then then the second part of it is, you have to have the trends in previous insider incidents been observed. So if your organization has ever faced any kind of risks, earlier, you need to have the trends that what has led to the insider risk or actual damage to the company's assets. So you need to have that trend understood, because if you're planning for having an insider risk management, these trends are really important. Because just think of implementing a very rigid policy around intellectual property into an healthcare organization, which is moreover dealing with patients, which is moreover dealing with the patient data. It really doesn't make sense. So we need to understand the trend of how the risk is and what policies to implement. And the specific areas of organization, say you are working, like your organization or department is moreover working on the sales of an in the sales team, then for you it makes sense to have more emphasis on the sales database that you are maintaining, the leads you are maintaining. It makes more sense to concentrate on that and that specific area to make sure that there is the risk is mitigated, the insider risk is mitigated. But whereas if you have some different organization, then you might have a specific other areas where you see an elevated risk and how you can manage that. So how should you do it? How should you do an insider risk management? So first and foremost, you would need a program sponsor, because this is not a security team taking care of everything and managing everything. There are multiple teams involved when you are doing an insider risk management. There is an HR team involved when it comes to communication compliance and things like that. There are legal teams involved when it happens to be an damage to your assets of your organization. So it is not just one team or one person of security, only the security department has to take care. It is an collaborative effort. So you need to have a program sponsor who has an authority and accountability to bring the required areas of the organization together. Then you need to have a matrix or a list of things that uh, that the assets of the program that you want to protect and the associated risk. Say for example, you have your customer data or you have your patient data. So what kind of insider risk? These are the assets. How are you going to what are the associated risks with it and how are you going to mitigate it? And then comes the third part where you look into the technology to support the risk identification, because Microsoft Purview insider risk management provides you different types of templates. It gives you data theft, data leakage, security, more lot of templates. But you need to first have that homework done in the areas of what is the assets of that you want to actually protect and understand the associated risk. Then go to the technology and uh, find the risk identification and trigger and investigation process, and so on and so forth. And starting out with an insider risk management, it never has been easier. So as there are advancement in the technology, it has become easier in the sense of the emphasis is more on the security investment, and you have the resources available with the cloud tools available, where you actually need not have to do an on-prem deployment, but still you are able to track everything and get the track the signals and get the risk assessment done. So now the third part comes is like why we have to really do it. So these are few numbers. I mean, the number speaks is what everybody says, and these are the numbers, and there are n number of metrics available related to the insider risk management. So in the recent survey of Carnegie Mellon Security and Private Institute, they have found that almost two-thirds of the organizations have experienced at least 5 malicious insider threat incidents in a year. And at some same time, around 60% have experienced over 10 inadvertent data issues incidents by employees. So it is an industry trend across the technology organizations, or any kind of organizations using these kind of where you have insider risks, and there are 70% of attacks causing at least average of 20,000 of damage when it's a direct result of malicious insider. If any employee who is departing from your company who takes the data out from your company, he is definitely going to cause the harm to the company, or the assets of the company are compromised. Similarly, 69% of the practitioners experienced over 5 malicious insider risk incidents, and 84% of practitioners, these are moreover people who are actually working in the industry, have experienced 5 non-malicious insider risk incidents, where it is accidentally you're sharing the information, the sensitivity labels or the sensitive information was available, which was accidentally shared with the vendors, contractors, partners, or so those kind of incidents really uh, make a huge impact on the organization and the vision the organization has for their company. So we have talked a lot about the insider risk management, of how it is done, what it is done, how we can do it. So we have covered that what, why, and how. So let's look into the actual demo of how the insider risk management looks into Microsoft Purview, and how can it be, how we can utilize it. So let me. Okay. So if you go to your compliance.microsoft.com, you will see an option here called Insider Risk Management. So once you click here, you are going to land uh, at on this page. Here you are seeing different tabs, which says Overview, Alerts, Case, Policies, Use Forensic Evidence, and Templates. Right. If I go to Overview, this is where you can set up and you see all the uh, alerts which you have, the active cases, or where you can manage your cases. You can see the users who has the potential risks, and the risk levels are also identified here. Then you can also see the results and managed reports and things like this. So the actual application, when you go here, you have for your organization, uh, there are different roles that are available. So as an administrator, you can go into this and you can have the settings done for your entire organization. So considering the privacy of the users, you can select to show an anonymized version of the usernames instead of showing the actual usernames. Then you have policy indicators. So this is where you actually try to set up the policy indicators, like whether the SharePoint files with people outside the organizations are shared, or the downloading content from the organization. So these are the indicators which will actually going to create those signals or risk scores, and those risk scores will give you the alerts. So you have office indicators, you have the device indicators where you're copying the data, you're moving the files to USB drive, you're browsing, or you're using the browser to upload the data on the web, printing files, and so on and so forth. Then you also have Microsoft Defender for endpoint indicators. This is in preview, but here you are attempt to bypass the security controls that you're setting up, or unwanted software is being installed on your machine. So those things can be tracked. And there are other indicators as well, which will help to see that what data exfiltration is happening, and how you can so based on your organization or the area in which your organization is working, you can select these indicators, and these indicators will be available in your policy to review those, to actually track those for your users. Then you also have a policy time frame. So policy time frame is nothing but where you are actually selecting the days where your policy gets triggered, and it will track how long the policy is to detect the activity. So it is not only going to take uh, one single attempt or one single one single time if large number of files are downloaded, but it's gonna track the activity for these many days based on your administrator's configuration, and then it will create a trigger based on the policy that we are going to create. Similarly, you have how many days of activity detection that you need to do before the policy can be triggered. Then there are intelligent detections, like you can exclude the files. You can have a minimum number of daily events. Say you are working for a publishing company where you need to download, say, 100 files a day, or uh, you know, like 500 MB of data is daily uploaded by your users, then it really doesn't make sense to have that triggers done, because that's what your employees are working on. So it will create a false positive alerts, and those alerts might not be helpful for you, because most of your organization employees will be working in that area, uploading the data and downloading the data, which really doesn't make sense. But if in case you are working for a healthcare organization where the day-to-day job of your employees doesn't need them to upload the documents, anything more than 10 MB or 100 MB. And if the users are uploading consistently, they're uploading the data of more than 500 MB, then that should trigger an alert, and it should give you an indication that there is a risk and you need to track those risks. There are different domains that you can track. Where there are third-party domains, file path exclusions, and so on and so forth. So there are other options as well. Priority users is another important setting where, say, your executive team or your sales leads or you have a team where they try to do something, try to copy the data, move the data. So you need to have this priority group on high alert if they are moving the data, copying the data, or doing any kind of activities on the devices which they are not supposed to do. They are installing some softwares. You can set up a priority group. If those activities happen within this priority group, then alerts are raised. And there are new features as well here, which are currently in preview, where whenever you create a case, automatically a teams is created, and you can collaborate your legal team, you can bring your HR team, and showcase them the case of why you are investigating it, it needs to be tracked, why it needs to be investigated, and maybe handed over to the for further escalation. So considering that, you have, so let me go ahead and show you this alert. Okay. So here you have a user who is the anonymous user here, but there are some alerts raised for this user. So why these alerts are raised, you will see that the HR connected imported resignation date for this user. So this user has actually resigned, and after resignation, we are seeing a lot of exfiltration of the data. He has copied the data to USB. He has downloaded data from SharePoint, and he's also sent email to the external recipients. So these are kind of the risks that are. So here, if you click on Activity Explorer, you will see the entire list of activities which the user is doing. Okay, so you can click on how many events on this day, what he's doing, uh, what has it done. See, if you see here, yeah, so if you see here, he's accessing the gambling websites. If you see the details of each activity, you can track it and see that what user is doing. He's accessing these websites. uh, he is, if you see the collection of these activities, he has downloaded so many files from the SharePoint. He has copied so many files into his USB device, uh, and then he has printed these devices. So you can understand that these things are happening, and there is a track of things happening. In the month of March, then you have 786, and you can go back. And this is a really important feature that you have, that you can make sense of, you can track the different activities and then connect the dots of those activities. Let us take this as an example. Okay, so what the user has done here is he has labels of he has removed the labels from here, and then he has shared the sites, and these files are downloaded. Then he has downloaded the files and exfiltrated. So, or example of this one where the user has uh, added an archive device, he has renamed the files, he has printed the files, and then he has deleted the files. So these kind of activities which a user is doing, and this will raise those alerts, it will trigger it, and then it will help the legal team or the people who are actually analyzing it. They can go through this and see that these are the activities the user is doing, and then they can raise an alert. They can have an forensic evidence as well. So if you see this particular on 9th August 2020, you can run this and see that what the user is doing. Okay, let me expand this. So you will see that what user is trying to do here, he's opening his Outlook, he's copying the files to the USB device, and then he's also opening the notepad. So the entire set of activities what the user is doing on his machine are actually tracked, and you will have the evidence to share it with the legal team, with the HR team, and even if you want to escalate it to the law enforcement, you have that details here. Okay, so there are multiple options, and then you have you can create a case. So this is specific case, and then you have an option to escalate it for investigation. You can escalate this, or you can also send an email notice. You can use Power Automate or share it with people, and manage the pseudonymize that you are currently Oscar. You are not showing the actual user details, but you can also change that, and then you can see alerts, user activities, explorer. This is against this particular potential IP theft, so this can be used and tracked. So there are a lot of options available. You can have forensic evidence, you can create the notice template, and so on and so forth. Okay, coming back to my presentation, then now we were all talking about the data risk management, the insider risk management, but it is also important to have the DLPs in place. So DLP, the data protection. So data protection, where you actually protect the data so that it is not leaked at all. You create a sensitive. So you create a framework around which the data cannot be downloaded, cannot be deleted, and so on and so forth. So when you look at the data exposure, most people will be aware that data loss prevention or DLP that protects user from data leakage risk through, we can have the policy tips or automate specific policy based transactions like blocking and copying the sensitive information. So these data loss prevention policy, it's a single endpoint in Microsoft Purview. It can prevent information oversharing. It can protect sensitive data, and it can the data pretty much everywhere. You can in the Microsoft applications, in your devices, and so on and so forth. Like, so from the emails you send and to, or you receive the emails, you share anything in your OneDrive account, Microsoft Teams chats, device endpoints, all those can be tracked and can be protected using single point, and that is one policy. This is data loss prevention policy. Scoping the policy in this way balance, it will keep the data safe and it will keep the users productive. This cloud native protection is built on the apps, services, and devices you use every day. It means that you don't have to have any bolt-on additional solutions. You don't have to deploy any agents. You don't have to configure any policies in multiple locations. And of course, you're not managing or maintaining your on-premise network. So you can use a single endpoint called data loss prevention policy, and your data can be protected. So to summarize, Microsoft Purview is one of the insider risk management and the uh, data loss prevention, and the compliance, communication compliance. This leverages, a robust set of these policies, a robust set of tools which offer to help to track the insider risk management, also make sure that the communication compliance is done within the organization, and the data loss prevention endpoints can help you, as a single endpoint can help you to track your devices and help your device, make sure that the organization is protected from the insider risk as well as the compliance is maintained within the organization. So these are some of the references which will be really helpful for you to look into if you are very much interested in understanding the insider risk management. There is also a Purview trial if you are using a Microsoft. So all these services or the licensing, you need an E5 license to use insider risk management. But if you want to do a trial of it, there is an option to use Purview trial, and you can use it to see these features. And there is also a YouTube series which you can, which will help you to understand the data security. And these are the other information which are available for the data loss prevention documentations and the advanced classification methods. So that is it from my end. Uh, I would like to thank all the sponsors and all the organizers and volunteers who are helping us to conduct this event and sharing this information with all. I think the next